Heads up later Monday. What's going on, guys? I'm certified meteorologist Jonathan Kagis. In this video, we'll need to keep an eye to the sky because we're going to talk about the potential for some severe thunderstorms across a big chunk of the state of Florida. I'm going to show you where that risk area is, and then I'm going to show you future radar both for Central Florida and the entire state of Florida so that you can be prepared if you're driving home from work to know that you might have to do a little bit of dodging. I'm not talking about widespread severe weather, but some of these storms could be a little rowdy at times today and cause some damage. The heat, of course, is going to continue across the state of Florida. We're going to talk about the temperatures both for Central Florida and for the state coming up as well. And then towards the end of the video, we are likely on the brink of our next named storm of the 2023 hurricane season. I'm going to show you where that is in the Atlantic coming up. Hey, before we get into the video, if you want to stay updated on all things Florida weather, you have to hit subscribe. If you happen to find this content helpful, hit that thumbs up button. It really does help us out a lot. And I do want to mention right off the bat that that system that potentially could be named next has no impact on Florida in all likelihood. Again, I'll show you that towards the end of the video. I'll give you the full tropical update. In terms of the severe weather threat Monday, this is for July 31st, a good chunk of the state of Florida highlighted by the Storm Prediction Center here for the threat of severe thunderstorms. Again, that's going to be that green color. I know it's only 1 out of 5. Again, we're not talking about an outbreak, but typically, through the summer, we have no highlight for severe weather. So again, this is a step up of what our typical daily afternoon thunderstorms that we are used to. Again, we're used to the sea breeze collisions, storms producing 40 to 50 mile per hour winds, really heavy rain, tons and tons of lightning, maybe some small hail, gusty winds, again, 40 to 50 miles an hour. That's a step up. So the hail might be a little bit bigger. Wind gusts could top 60 miles an hour in these storms. And then again, you know the drill. The lightning is going to accompany that, cloud to ground, and then a whole lot of torrential rain. So there's that risk area really from southeast Georgia through Jacksonville, St. Augustine, all the way down to Miami, through about the east side of Tampa, Orlando, into Daytona Beach, Melbourne, Fort Pierce, West Palm, Fort Lauderdale. That's going to be a risk. The Panhandle, we are out of the risk, at least the main risk anyway, for severe weather. I want to show you future radar first for Central Florida, and then we're going to show you the entire state coming up. Notice the darker purples here. This is when they're this color. There's the scale up to the top of your screen. Here is the time for reference as well. The darker the reds and purples, the higher opportunity these storms are going to have to become severe again. Once we talk about that severe level, that's whenever damaging storms are going to be possible. So there you see the bright pinks and purples. That really continues until about 6 or 7 o'clock tonight through Central Florida. Now, once we get towards 8, 9, we could have a few thunderstorms linger. Still, some of these could be really strong, but notice the coverage starts to go down. We have some light lingering showers around the Central Florida area. You see Marion County, just like we did last night, we could load up again, and we could have a few strong thunderstorms start to push back through. Getting into tomorrow, I think we could have a few lingering storms around there, 7, 8 o'clock, get an early start. Maybe take a break through your early afternoon, and then once again, late night storms firing back up. I know my dog did not enjoy the storms last night. If you have pets, I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. Not every dog impacted like that, but certainly thunder's not good for most dogs. And again, we could have another rough night again Monday, and then to start off August, could have another long night in terms of those thunderstorms around, at least on an isolated scale. So not everybody. Here is 4 o'clock from the Florida perspective, again, showing you future radar. Again, we are nice and quiet at this point from Jacksonville to Talley all the way to Pensacola. Scattered storms and really erupting. This is the sea breeze firing up. But again, the atmosphere more conducive to producing these beefier storms, if you will. Again, especially right smack dab in the middle of the state. So there you go, Palm Coast to the west of us, west of Jacksonville, towards Fort Pierce, closing in on Fort Lauderdale as well. Some nasty thunderstorms. Do you see that spiral too at the end? Be interesting if the Hurricane Center highlights that as it slides off. It likely won't be, but you saw that little pinwheel. Again, a lot of times, too, you get these complexes of thunderstorms that roll off and then could quickly become tropical cyclone. But there you go. That's the story for another time. They head back out into the Atlantic, leaving us alone regardless. And then once we get into Tuesday evening, look at all this mess down toward Miami. For us in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, toward Lake Okeechobee, Belglade, Fort Pierce. That's when we're under the gun for more storms, and fire off into Georgia and then push down the peninsula in that direction. And that's what I have to watch for those late night storms. Highs again, Monday into Tuesday, getting back into the low to mid 90s again. So the heat is back after those relatively cooler days, at least we'll call it less hot. The humidity was still cranked up, but boy, it did feel nice with the rain around early and those clouds hanging around, with temperatures only being held in the upper 80s across parts of South and Central Florida. In terms of your temperature on Tuesday through the state, again, the big time heat going toward the Panhandle. So Pensacola, Port St. Joe, Tallahassee, Mexico Beach. We're talking low to mid-90s. Again, closer to the Gulf, we're a little bit cooler. But you see the big-time heat still across the Deep South. That's part of that much advertised heat wave that is really gripping a lot of the country right now. Whereas we're doing a little bit better towards Tuesday afternoon. I think we'll get into the low to mid-90s again in Orlando, or at least the low 90s. I think the clouds around help to keep us. Again, it's all relative, but a little bit cooler. All right, on to the tropics. I mentioned this off the top that we're not going to be dealing with the next named storm of the 2023 hurricane season, if, of course, this is named. And again, don't want to be premature here. That's the Hurricane Center's deal. They are responsible for naming the storms when the criteria happen. So I want to be clear about that. We don't name the storms here. The Hurricane Center does. But they are giving it a 70% shot. This entity that you see right here, smack dab in the middle of your screen, a 70% shot to become a depression or storm, and an 80% shot over the next 7 days. I will say that this entity here, a satellite pass, recorded winds in it of 40 miles an hour already, enough to become a tropical storm. The reason why it has not been named yet is because at the surface, we don't have a tight, closed, well-defined center just yet. It's getting there, but until this entity, officially known as Invest 96L, kind of closes off and firestorms around that center, it will not get a name because it has not reached the definition of a tropical cyclone. Now, again, cyclone is what they are worldwide. In the Atlantic, we call them tropical depressions, tropical storms, and of course hurricanes when they meet the wind criteria. But again, a tropical cyclone is the umbrella across the world. Each basin, each geography calls it something different. But again, it's tropical cyclone there. Not yet, though, because it is not well defined. There's also this little thing here up towards closer to New England, the Canadian Maritimes. Development chances are at 20%. They are dropping because now we have this cold front. That's what's also going to help to juice up our storms a little bit later on Monday, July 31st. It's interacting with that, so it's going to start to take on non-tropical characteristics, so it's not going to be able to get that well-defined center. It likely will, but then it won't be producing thunderstorms around its center. That is the difference between a non-tropical low and a tropical low. It produces storms right around its center, and a non-tropical low. In our next video, I'll show this to you again. You'll likely see the thunderstorms kind of wrapped there. That is not my telestrator. That is my cold front thing. But the storms, the center is going to be right there, kind of where the X is, and then the storms fire right off to the east of the center. It's what we call a mid-latitude cyclone, non-tropical, and all of that jazz. Alrighty, guys. A lot of rambling about the definition of a tropical cyclone or a tropical system, non-tropical, tropical, but the deal is be on the lookout for some nasty thunderstorms on your Monday, July 31st, especially if you're driving home from work. Things will get a little rowdy out there, very heavy rain, of course. We're used to that, but again, this is going to be your step up. The storms have a little more oomph, a little more juice, a little more beef, whatever you want to call it, a little bit later on your Monday evening, Monday afternoon. So again, just keep an eye to the sky, have a way to get watches and warnings, pinpoint weather app, free and great tool to do that. And again, if you found this content helpful, which I hope you did, I welcome all and any feedback. Post that in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from. And again, please hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you on board as we track the weather through Florida and, of course, in hurricane season. And we will catch you next time. Thanks so much, guys.